Hello, this is Unlock 3, Listening and Speaking for B1. This is week 5, day 2. In this video, we are going to talk about how to talk about past events. We are going to do some revision of simple past, and we will focus on time phrases about the past. Obviously, when you are talking about past events, you need to use simple past most of the time. You will see this text on page 62. Read and listen to this part of a presentation about a famous historical figure. Underline the past verb forms and write them in the table below. We will do this later, but let's focus on something else first. This is the beginning. This is the first paragraph of the part of the presentation. Now listen and read.
3.8. When it comes to explorers, most people think of the great medieval travellers like Marco Polo or Christopher Columbus, or they may think of more recent explorers like Neil Armstrong, who travelled to the moon in the mid-20th century. However, people often forget about a Moroccan explorer who travelled from North Africa, Egypt and the Arabian Peninsula through Syria and Afghanistan to India and China. He crossed the Himalayas and visited remote places like Sri Lanka, the Maldives and the Philippines. He did all this in the early 14th century, when there were no cars and certainly no planes. His travels lasted almost 3 decades. And who was this explorer? It was Ibn Battuta. Ibn Battuta was born in Tangier in 1304. He was a curious and intelligent child. At the age of 21, he went to Mecca. In the 1300s, the journey from Morocco to Mecca took a very long time. Ibn Battuta returned home after 3 years because he missed his family. A short while later, he set off on his first sea voyage. He left Jeddah and travelled to Yemen and then to Mogadishu, which at that time was a wealthy merchant city. Wherever he went, Ibn Battuta described the people, the architecture and the society. He died in the late 1300s. However, because he wrote down everything he saw, this helped people in the future learn about past cultures across the world.
So, study this introduction now. This is the first part of the listening text that you just heard. Who is this talk about? This talk is about Ibn Battuta. But do you see he mentions the name Ibn Battuta, not in the beginning, not around the middle, but he keeps the name to the end. Why does he do this? In the beginning, he gives some background information about the main topic. What is his main topic? His main topic is travelers, traveling, medieval travelers, explorers, explorations. So he gives some background information about the main topic first, without mentioning the name Ibn Battuta. After that, he gives some general information about Ibn Battuta, again without mentioning the name. This is a good introduction when you are giving a presentation about a famous historical person. You might want to try this approach. First, give some general information about the topic, and then some general information about the person, then mention his name. All right, in this text on page 62, this one here, you will see, read this text again, underline the past verb forms, and after you finish this, write them in this table. Pause the video now and come back after you finish this exercise. Here are the answers in 3, 2, 1. When you read the text, you will see some regular verbs and some irregular verbs. When you are speaking, pronunciation is very important. Let's focus on the regular verbs. They all end in ed, 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 ed. So all of these regular verbs end in ed. However, the sounds are different. Some of these ed endings sound like d, d. Some of them sound like t, and some of them sound like id or id. Can you guess now this regular verb? How does it sound? Crossed, crossed, or crossed? Can you guess? The answer is crossed, crossed. T sound at the end, crossed. What about this word? Is it missed or missed or missed? Which one? It's missed, missed. What about this one? Helped, helped, or helped? It is pronounced helped, helped. Check this one. It is pronounced lasted, id ending, lasted. What about this one? Described, not described, or not described, described. Can you guess this one? Returned, returned. And this one is died, died. And this one is traveled, traveled. It is always a good idea to check the pronunciation of words online if you are not sure about it. You can use Google or howdyousay.com to do this. Because if you can pronounce the words correctly, it will be easier for your listeners to understand you. Okay, look at this text one more time, but this time focus on the words and phrases in bold. So what are they? For example, this word, medieval. This word, recent, mid, century, early. So look at the words and phrases in bold in the text. Match them to their synonyms. So these are the synonyms. The first one is done for you. Decade. Decade. Where is this word? Decade. Okay, here. The word decade means a period of time lasting 10 years. So pause the video now, do the exercise, and come back to check your answers. Here are the answers in 3, 2, 1. So, a decade is a period of time lasting 10 years. A century, a period of time lasting 100 years. Remember medieval? The Middle Ages, actually. The Middle Ages means medieval. Then means next. So these are time phrases that you are possibly be going to use in your speaking presentation about a famous historical person. There are a few important things about pronunciation of some of the numbers. For example, how do you say years? Ibn Battuta was born in 1304. So when there's a zero, you can say it as O, 1304. He died in 1377. So two numbers. He died in 1377. Ibn Battuta lived in the 14th century. The 14th century. There is a there is an article, the definite article, before the 14th century. How do you say this? Ibn Battuta lived in 1300s. 1300s. And this one? Neil Armstrong went to the moon in the 1960s. What does this mean, S? What does this S mean here? The 1300s. It means sometime between 1300s to 1399. 1960s, from 1960 to 1969. So how do you say this sentence? Try it and then listen to the correct answer. Number one, Columbus set off to America in the late 1400s. 1400s, like here, 1300s. Number two, Marco Polo traveled to Asia in the 13th century. The 13th century. Number three, people rediscovered the Terracotta Army in the 1970s. Number four, Tutankhamun's tomb was opened in 1922. In this video, we talked about how to use past simple and time phrases when you are talking about the past. Now you can go to the next video for ideas on how to be a confident speaker.